I guess it would help if I turned on my mic. I'm so used to I had my Skype mic on, but not that mic. So let me start all over. So welcome everybody to Game Changers Live. We got a special Game Changers Live for you guys tonight. We're going to be doing sort of a around the horn or around the CFM talk show. I got 4 CFM enthusiasts with me today, and we're going to be just talking about CFM, the future of CFM, and everything in between. There are no mute buttons, but there will be scores taken, so these guys need to make some very valid points, or I will deduct scores from them. Guys, make sure you big shout out to my sponsors, Jerky Pro and Insane Labs. If you hit them up, make sure you use the code INFOCUS to get percentage off on that. So without further ado, let's meet our panelists. All right, so here we got my man Sim Football Critic. We got Sonny from NBL. We got the Dynasty and PX1 Sports Leagues all represented here. We're going to have ourselves a good time. As you can see, some of them already have scores. I just based it on their connection and how they look. So if you see somebody like the Dynasty has 10, actually Sim Football Critic should have like minus, because this man is on his phone right now. So I don't know. We're going to change his score to 0 real quick right now. So we're going to reset everybody's score. But I want to let everybody introduce themselves. So Sim, if you can go first, just introduce yourself and tell everybody about you.
Yeah, what's up, everybody, man? Sim Football Critic. Like Shop said, man, dealing with the phone tonight and having some technical difficulties with the computer. So if I drop out, y'all know why. But yeah, man, I'm from the Sim Standard. That's where most of you guys know me from. Whether it's YouTube or whether it's the podcast that we do every Thursday, as well as I'm a EA Sports Game Changer, primarily working with Madden. Been working with Shop for a very long time, and that's it. It's just a simulation sim guy in terms of football, whether it's Madden, which is all we have, just in that quest for simulation football. That's what I'm all about.
Cool. All right, Sonny, you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sonny Weaver of NBL and the NBL Network. Part of the Four Verse podcast, done a lot of interviews with developers, different things, talking about different parts of Madden and specifically CFM. Part of the NBL Network, and happy to be here and talk shop with you guys.
Cool. All right, so we got my man Lewis from the Dynasty.
Yes, I go by the name Nasty Noop. I'm the commissioner of the Dynasty Madden League. I want to start off by saying it's an honor to be on the show tonight. I've been listening to a lot of you guys for years now on your podcast and on your different shows. So, like I said, it's an honor to be here tonight with you guys, man, to talk some Madden.
All right, and last we got oh man, I forgot your name just that quick. I need a minus. But
Mike.
Huh?
Mike.
We got Mike from PX1 League. PX1 Sports.
Yeah, my video is frozen. I think Lewis is
Yeah, you and y'all videos are frozen.
Do you guys hear me still?
Yeah, we can still hear you.
Yeah. I'm Mike Peters, also known as Majesty95 from PX1Sports.com. We run Sim League for 4 years now, and just try to do some cool things like live broadcasts and Red Zone channel, and just always looking to try to innovate with our leagues and stuff like that. I'm definitely big in the Sim community, and love Madden, very passionate about it, and I'm very happy to be here and talk Madden. I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Cool. Awesome. So looks like we just got Sim Football and Sonny moving, but we can still hear Dynasty. We can still hear Mike. So we'll continue on. So my first question to you guys is real simple, and I just want you to. I'm going to ask you what your top 3 wishes are for Madden for CFM for Madden 18, and I don't want you to elaborate because we're going to let you elaborate later. But just tell me your top three choices, and you know what? We're gonna start with Mike. Go ahead, Mike.
My top three would probably be. I know this isn't really a CFM thing, but best on best. I guess maybe that'd be a CFM thing. Basically, being able to do defensive assignments, and if I want to put Josh Norman on the number one receiver, I want to be able to do that.
Right.
Second thing, I want more stats, like what they have in the game planning.
Okay.
And let's see, third one. This I have to say this, even though it's not CFM, but we gotta fix deep zones.
Deep zones. All right. So those are yours. Lewis, what are your top three Madden CFM wishes for Madden 18?
Okay, number one would be to bring back the actual scrimmage mode that we had in Madden 25.
Oh, nice.
Number two would be to custom playbooks that actually work with formation subs. That would be nice. And the last, number three, would be more flexibility with player contracts.
Okay. I like that. I like all of those. All right, Sonny.
Let's go ahead and go with offensive and defensive lineman injuries. I think the next one would probably be deeper character traits, meaning things beyond just play aggressive things like that. More in-depth traits, and then off-season stuff, OTAs, rookie mini camps, things like that that really let you dive deeper in your guys.
Okay, nice. Sim.
Yeah, man, you put me at a good advantage because a lot of that stuff I like, so now I can roll off three others. Definitely progressive fatigue and progressive injury throughout the season, wear and tear. Recruiting. And I say recruiting because I'm thinking NCAA, but I want a more robust option like NCAA's recruiting was in terms of, pitching guys for free agency as well as your re-signing.
Right.
And I want players to be able to earn, but the XP stuff, I'm kind of tired of that. I want guys to be able to perform in practice and things of that nature that allows them to, be able to build up throughout the season instead of just dumping XP points on them. I want practice and things like that to matter a lot more.
Okay. All right, so our next question is, how do you feel EA feels about CFM? I mean, there's a lot of people in the community who feel like CFM is not getting the love that they deserve, and we'll talk about that later. But from your perspective and from what you know, how do you think the devs are towards the community, and how do you feel like the devs are, as far as getting some of the things that we want in CFM up? And we'll start with Sonny on this one.
Well, it's kind of a loaded question in the sense that I think the developers are doing what they can do. They're making their best effort to try to interact with the community and take that positive feedback. I know we've had a lot of interactions with John White and Rex and different things, and they're always receptive to feedback. But like we talked about the other day, Shop, there's only so much that they can get in there. I saw in the AMA for one that they can have one thing that won't be a huge impact that everybody wants, or they can add a bunch of features. And I think CFM, from that standpoint, they got to get some back-of-the-box features on there every year that really sell the game. And so I think they're trying to do that while fixing some things. So I would say he is doing a good job. I think they've got limited resources in CFM, and I think that's something that you see reflected in the game. But, it's a business, and we'll talk about it later, but I think there's definitely a little bit of a cash sink in CFM that the other modes don't have.
All right. Lewis, you want to expand on that?
Well, to be honest, I think they're doing a good job. Madden 17 out the box was a perfect game to me. As far as like the quarterback, you had to get that ball out of your hand. If not, you fumbled the ball. I believe that's realistic. So as we moved on and with the tuners and updating the games, we lost a lot of that great stuff that made the game good out the box. So
I think they're doing a good job. They just need to stop listening to all the noise because a lot of the CFMs out here want to play real football. So I have no complaints from my end of it.
Okay. All right. Mike?
I think that from the devs end, kind of like Sonny was saying, I think they do a good job from EA's aspect. I don't think they do enough for CFM. I'm sure they've got numbers and stuff to support what they're doing, but I would like to see more. The good news is, if you guys saw my podcast I did with Rex earlier, he said that CFM usage was up like twofold this year.
Yeah.
So that's good news. Hopefully that means more money is going to get pumped into CFM and we're going to see some new stuff. But I mean, it's behind. If you look at NBA 2K and all the stuff that they got, it's behind. They could be doing more.
Right.
But I mean, they're doing what they can with what they're given, I think. And we just hopefully more guys show up and keep playing the mode and they keep doing stuff. We keep growing it.
Cool. Sim?
Well, you already know where I'm going with it, man.
Yes.
It's those guys who wear those suits that cut those checks are the ones that I'm talking to. Not necessarily the devs, because we deal with the devs, so we know the passion is I believe Sonny mentioned John White. We already know how those guys feel. But I don't think EA as a whole, the corporates, are doing enough for CFM. It's almost like it's getting lost. And I think what Mike said is key. I think if more people start to play it, or if they can find a way to make it more intriguing for them, then it'll get the love it deserves. Right now, I absolutely feel like they're not doing enough for CFM.
Okay. I feel the same way. Like Sonny said, I do think it's a resource thing. I do think it's one of those things where, they used to say, we want people to come. If we find people that come, we will build it out. But I keep telling them, build it out and people will come. Don't think of it as the other way around. Build it out to be this great thing and people will play it. Don't wait for people to play it, because people will get frustrated because they feel like it should be something more, and it's not. Now, Sim talked about or alluded to, Ken or I forgot who said it, maybe it was Sonny said it, something, it's not their main focus. I feel like it's not their main focus. Mutt esports right now, I feel like, is their main focus. But there's some talk in the community about if EA could benefit or get some money from CFM, then maybe they would treat it a little bit better. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about CFM and DLC and CFM, or how can EA, under reason, how can EA actually benefit, or what can they do that you think the community will be okay paying for? We'll start with Mike on this one.
Okay. I actually talked about this on another podcast too. I've been talking about this for a while. You have to. I broke it down on there. If anyone wants to check it out, I don't want to get into it as much, but if you think back over the last 20 years since gaming has started, games have only gone up from like $50 when they first started to $60, and they pretty much stayed there. Yet the cost of development is skyrocketed. Everything that we pay for in life is like doubled in price over the last 20 years due to inflation. But yet video games need the same, and we expect all this extra stuff put into the games, but we're not willing to pay anything more for it. That doesn't make sense to me. And I think the best way for us to get what we want from CFM is we have to open our minds to downloadable content, and what that could look like, I don't know. I mean, I picked up an NFL head coach and been messing around with that for a video that I want to do, and if they brought some kind of mode like that out, I would pay $20, $30 extra for it. There's lots of things that they could do. Historic stadiums, historic rosters. I mean, there's so many different things that they could do to add revenue that they could then, in turn, put back into CFM, and I'm all for it. I think it's the best thing for the game. If they did it, guys just got to wrap their head around it and accept that that's kind of the direction we're headed.
Right. Very good. Very good points. Sim?
Man, that's a tough one for me because I would do it. Let me start off by saying that I would pay for DLC, whatever it's going to cost, as long as it's not ridiculous. But it's a thin line for me though, because if you're just going to put stuff in the game that was there, like some of the features we loved on the PS2, I'm going to be a little pissed off behind that. Don't make me pay for something like that. It's going to have to be something innovative, and I will do it.
Yeah.
I always talk about Combine and stuff like that. So what if there's some type of thing that you get access to Combine or Pro Days or some things like that? I'm all for it. We've never seen that. But if it's like features that used to be in the game, and now you're saying, oh, brand new DLC, here, pay $19.99 for this. Nah, don't hit me with that. Like, get it where it needs to be first, then we can talk about that. And I would be for it. I definitely would do it.
Right.
Can I jump in real quick and make a point to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I was actually thinking about that too. And if you look back at like 06, the only thing the game had was franchise mode. So everything went in, all the development went into franchise mode. But now we got Mud, now we got Draft Champions, probably going to be some kind of single player. Back then, it was all head-to-head and franchise. So that's the only thing they had, and that's where everything went in. But now we've got so many different things where it's spreading out the resources, and I think that's why you don't see as much stuff anymore.
Good point.
Yeah, but see, the problem with that though, for me still, and I think most of the CFM crowd is, it seems like our audience is the only one that's not getting the love. Yeah. So I get that, but at the same time, I got to look at them and say, well, where's our share? And I don't see it.
Lewis, Sonny, y'all want to jump in?
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. So there's a couple different points you guys hit on in there that interesting. So for CFM, I think what you have to do, you have to have a baseline. So the game can't cut CFM out. You've got to have the base CFM that is still going to do the onboarding, that's still going to bring guys in. Because I think really the strategy is EA is looking to convert CFM guys into MUT guys. Because CFM guys are loyal customers that are going to keep buying the game every year, and they're going to keep coming back. And people don't go out to buy the game to play MUT. They go out to try to recreate the things they see on the field. Go trade for the guys, do that thing. They've got to get them in through CFM first, and then suck them in over to MUT. So I think you've got to keep that baseline CFM in the game. As far as expanding through DLC, I think there's a lot they could do there, but what you have to understand is your whole league has to come in that way. So maybe it's the commissioner has to buy a commissioner DLC for $50, $60, $75, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And only the commissioner needs that DLC to run an expanded CFM. Because if you require from everybody in the league, if 31 guys have it, you're going to alienate the 32nd guy. And that's a problem.
Yes.
So if you do it at a league level, what you're going to find there is you're still going to sell that DLC. But if you require 31 other guys to get it, you're not going to sell that DLC. So that DLC could be things like expanded scouting reports, kind of like what Sim said. So I want 500 comments about players. Runs good routes, tight hips maybe means low agility, cuts off the route short means bad route running, that kind of stuff. And I want to look at that on a piece of paper showing up on the screen, and I want to draw my own conclusions from that. Let's get more advanced scouting. It could mean the OTAs I talked about. It could mean offensive and defensive coordinators get thrown in there. And those coordinators could have some more value to it too. So I think the DLC just needs to be at a higher level. Now, for EA, if it works at a higher level, they can bring it down in the future to an individual user level. But I think to introduce it, you've got to introduce it at a higher level and bring it back down.
Good, all good points. All good points. Lewis, jump in there, man.
For me, I would have to jump on the other side of this argument. I'm already paying $60, and I believe that everything that was mentioned earlier should already be in the game. So for me to have to shell out extra money, I can't agree with that at this point. Or, because I ran this by my league earlier today, if they would pay any extra money for extra add-ons within the game, and 90% of the members of my league said no, because they agree with me. It should already be in the game, because a lot of the functions and the additions were already in past games. So why should I pay for what was already there?
Good points. Very good points. My stance on this is that what I think would work is I agree with Sonny. There shouldn't be a way to give players an advantage that purchase DLC. It's I don't like that. I don't like that. Maybe a commissioner's package would be good. But I say one of the quickest things that they could do is make this app that they have $5.99 to download one time, and you could do everything that you do on the console on that app except for play the game. Like, I feel like every CFM guy would pay $5.99 to be able to negotiate contracts, sim their game prep, do all the things that they can do on the console except for play the game. So I feel like that's an alternative. And if you got, and just think, they, as Mike said, they doubled CFM since last year as far as the people that are using it. Man, if just half of those guys just get the app and download the app, you would have, it would be great. And I'm not even saying like they can put stuff in the app for MUT players as well. Let you see your MUT team on the app and be able to change lineups and stuff like that. Like, it doesn't have to be a CFM app. But what I don't want is what happened this year, is that they create an app and then they just let it go, and there was no update to the app whatsoever. So there are ways that I feel like EA can do this, but they just have to think strategically about it. I just don't want. I think NCAA had it where you can like purchase upgrades, but not everybody can purchase upgrades for their league, and it caused problems, Unless you just, I think there was an option for the commissioner to shut that off, saying no DLC or something like that. But these are all you guys made all the points that I had earlier. But going into MUT, when I talk about CFM, a lot of guys had this disdain for MUT. They just can't stand MUT because they feel like it takes away the developers from CFM. I like MUT personally. Like, it doesn't bother me. I just wish there was more love for CFM, but I don't hate MUT because of it. So I want to get you guys' opinion on that. Do you have MUT shade? Do you throw some MUT shade in there? And we'll start with Mike.
I'm probably gonna be one of the outcasts in this group. I actually love MUT.
Me too.
Back to the card collecting when I did when I was a kid. I spent quite a bit of money on it every year. I played up through Christmas this year, and it was really tough. And I was playing quite a bit because I had to win a Super Bowl. And I know some people are probably like, "What? That's not that hard." But coming from a sim community and trying to learn all the things that you got to win on MUT was hard. But then I just got tired of a lot of the same stuff that we saw. But I think they're working on fixing it, and I think I don't know if we're ever gonna get a quote unquote sim game that a lot of guys really want.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the age of YouTube and Twitch, everything gets put out there and it's so easy to find it. But I think we're going to get closer, and I think MUT, for anybody that doesn't like MUT, resents MUT, MUT has got the game to where it is. Without MUT, like I talked about, cost of inflation doubling in the last 20 years. If it wasn't for MUT, man, this game would be way further behind to where it is. So I like MUT, and I can't wait to see what they do with it this year. I think it's a great other option for people to play MUT or to play Madden. We just need more options. We need more way for more people to play, so more people can enjoy the game.
But let me ask you something, Mike. Do you feel like more modes, more gameplay takes away from other modes? Like, I couldn't imagine if they had online team play and all the rest of the modes that they have.
Well, team play is one of those things that I used to think was great for the game, and I know a lot of people want, but the dev time, I can see that probably goes in to make that happen in a game that's 11 on 11, and probably only 2 to 6 people are going to be user controlled. I mean, I would rather than put that development time into other things, but I mean, it's a popular topic. But as far as modes, yeah, it's absolutely possible. You look at NBA 2K, it's got my GM, it's got my league, you got my player, you got park, you got all this stuff in there. In the show, you've got your weekly challenges, you've got Road to the Show, you've got Dynasty, like so many different things. I can't even think of all of them that are in there, but there's so many things in all these other games, and Madden's way behind in that option. And if you get tired of playing MUT and you're not in the CFM, what do you have? You don't have anything really. So they gotta give guys more things that they can play and they can enjoy the game, and so it keeps them engaged in Madden and gives them a break, and then they can go back to CFM or they can go back to MUT or whatever they're doing.
Okay, Lewis.
Sean, let me jump in here because there was something he said that I completely disagree with, and I think he kind of contradicted himself there a little bit. You went back and you said that without MUT, Madden wouldn't be where it is today. But like you said, if you look back, CFM is what started it all. It wasn't MUT that started it all. Yeah. And so that I think you're a little backwards. I wouldn't go that far. Now, what I will say is MUT offers some interesting things. I think some of the chemistries and things like that, I'd like to see those in CFM. I think offensive coordinators should have chemistries that the players fill in around them.
Yes.
And you go out in free agency and in the draft, and you find guys with those chemistry that you bring in and make your team better through that. And that replicates things like the Legion of Boom and stuff like that. And that's something Bomber's been preaching. I really appreciate. But as far as MUT goes itself, I think the mode itself is, in principle, very good. I think the idea of opening packs is a gambling high that people very much so enjoy. I think where you get a lot of the shade or issues people have is in the gameplay itself. CFM people tend to not necessarily care all about winning. It's about the experience. It's about the community. It's about just going through it. But with MUT, it is about winning. And I think for the CFM mind, it is hard to cross over from that idea of win at all costs and see a lot of those money plays and different things, and just see things you don't necessarily agree with being done constantly. So I would love just to play MUT and do nothing but open packs and play solos. So that's kind of what I do with MUT. I don't play online. I play, solos and I open packs because that's the part of it I enjoy. I don't like playing those people, but I don't think it's inherently evil. I think there's some jealousy from the CFM community about the attention they get, but I don't think the developers' time is solely there. I think we got a development crew that really appreciates CFM, but EA is also a business, and like I said, CFM's the onboarder, MUT's the moneymaker, and it's just somewhere we got to find a common ground in between. And I don't think it's that hard, but I don't think you've got to be, have so much vitriol towards each other when it comes to, which one is better, who deserves more, things like that. It's just not good for the community as a whole.
All right, let's get let's get Lewis in here.
Okay, for me, this is gonna be short and sweet. I've never played a MUT game in my life. I've never even been in the mode. So for me, I don't have an opinion on it one way or the other. So I guess I'll pass.
I want to jump back completely since Sonny thought I was contradicting myself. The reason why I say that the game's where it is because of MUT is, like I pointed out before, all the game had before it was franchise mode in 2006, but everything's, or even before that, and everything in life is doubled in price, but the cost of the game hasn't. So the revenue that's been brought in by MUT has helped the game get to where it is. Now, if they would have done that for something for CFM, where they were generating more revenue, then I can see it. Or if they doubled the price of the game and they're bringing in more revenue, then yeah, you can maybe say that CFM carried it, but it didn't. They came up with MUT, and that's where we've gotten to where we are. I'm not disagreeing that they need to do more with franchise, but MUT has helped carry them to where we are right now.
All right.
That's a slightly flawed logic, though, because you say the price would have to double, but all video games are set at that price. That's
right.
Where the market expects it to be. It's not. It is not an EA or a Madden thing. That is where the market has set the price for video games. Now, some video games do have the DLC, but nonetheless, that is still the price for video games.
Yeah.
Well, I know, but they don't have a DLC though. I mean, you look at Call of Duty and stuff like that. They have a $50 season pass that people are adding on, and that's adding development money. Whereas Madden's not. And also, the one thing a lot of people forget about EA is it's a publicly traded company, and it's a little bit different in the way that they manage it. There's always going to be a profit margin that they have to meet. So it's too expansive to get into on this, but that kind of holds them back in a way. And it's not an excuse, and I'm not saying that I like it, but it's different from an independent company that doesn't have as many people to answer to, basically.
Right. Sim?
That's an interesting conversation they're having, man. I'm not going to jumping into that. 'Cause, you know, I have an opinion on it too. But I feel like, to be honest, man, I don't have a beef with Mutt, mainly because of the way I play Mutt. I've never spent a red cent on Mutt. So I don't have a problem with it. Actually, the only problem I ever had with Mutt is another issue. I always felt like the gameplay didn't replicate players to their truest form. So Mutt wasn't attractive to me because hypothetically, if I have a Dion, I want him to play, look, and feel like Dion. Mm-hmm. Then you might have me as a sim guy being all in Mutt because now I can replicate these players. That was my only beef with it because I don't have to pay money. And I understand, like my man said, it's a business. So all of these games doing it, I can't be mad at that. But I don't have a problem with Mutt. I mean, it's up to you. Either you pay or you play for free or whatever you want to do, or do like Lewis said, hey, don't even touch it. So I think it is a common ground that we can find because to me it all comes down to gameplay. Period. Whether it's Mutt or CFM, the game just has to be at a level where we can all enjoy it.
Well, here's my take on it. I don't throw Mutt. The only Mutt shade I throw is just the love that it gets. I mean, you look at Mutt, they get like new items, new solos, new players, every week there's something new in Mutt, and so that's the only thing that I feel like a lot of people have a problem with Mutt. It's just the attention that it gets, and that sort of ties into our next topic is why there's no love for CFM, but we're gonna actually skip that because we kind of talked about all of that. But I want to know, most of you guys are commissioners of league. I don't know if Sim commissions a league, but is there something EA can do right off the bat, like just from day one? Is there something EA can do to make the commissioner options better? If it's options, if it's something else, how can EA make your life better, Lewis? Let me know.
One way they can make my life better as a commissioner would be you're running a 32-man league. You have rules in place, and you expect everybody to follow the rules. Mm-hmm. So if I had the ability, if a user in my league broke the rules, to either take that user's picks, sit players from that user's team, mm-hmm. or give me those options to penalize users in the league. Right now, I don't have those options. If a user breaks the rules, I have to have him trade his first round pick to someone in his division or 7th round pick. It becomes a big headache because then I have to argue with this other user about doing that because he doesn't want to do it.
Right.
But if I had the option as a commissioner to go ahead and just
do it,
just go ahead and do it, that would help me out a whole lot.
Right. I mean, you got a point there. What about you, Sonny?
Let me go ahead and say I'm not a commissioner.
Okay.
Our guys at NBL do a great job, but what I will say is a lot of what Lewis said I think is big. They were big coming in that one of the things they wanted to do was allow commissioners to customize things. So they opened up player editing and things like that, but I think they left a lot to be determined. Things like we've talked about shop, turn on ball hawk league-wide or turn it off league-wide.
Right.
Turn on kicking arch, turn off kicking arch. Things like that. A lot of settings, I think, across the league need to be corrected so we can kind of have control on how our guys are playing. Like Lewis said, I think pick and suspensions and things like that is pretty obvious stuff. The other thing is app for the commissioner. The commissioners still need more power from the app. Advancing a league. Well, if you need to advance a league and turn injuries off for an advance or turn injuries off so somebody can play a CPU or something like that, you can't do that from the app right now. So the app needs to give those commissioners more functionality when they're on the run because you've got 32 guys with 32 issues. And to be able to control that while you're on the go, I think that's really a big thing. So we talk about somewhere they missed. That app is really going to need to be improved.
Right. Mike?
Actually, I like the stuff that both Lewis and Sonny both said. Giving us more control to set up the league would be ideal. Setting different settings. I mean, that would, if we want to turn ball hawk off or any of that stuff, that would be great. And I'd love to see more flexibility in that. The one thing I really, really want, if I could narrow it down to one, would be the ability to throw out results. Because like Lewis was saying, man, people
Yeah.
come in, they don't play by your rules, and then they meet somebody that is playing by the rules, and we can't do anything about that. And that person's got to live with that loss, even though they were trying to play by the rules. The other guy just wanted to win. So giving us that ability would go a long way in helping out.
Cool. Sim, you want to add something?
Man, yeah, I'm right there with Lewis. I mean, he set it off and set the tempo right there. Just full control. I'm actually a co-commissioner in our league. Full control by the commissioner from settings to suspensions. We have to institute those things ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And, just to give you guys an idea on settings, we wanted to try this season for everybody to play on Zoom cam and defensive cam, just to, make it fun.
Right.
And people said they were going to do it, and we make everybody stream, and you find out guys aren't doing it. Just little stuff like that.
Right.
Just give me the control to lock everything in reverse transactions. Like if the computer does something by mistake, like sign Ben Roethlisberger at 39 years old for $15 million, let me be able to go back and, return that back to the previous status or something. But just full control, man.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I agree with all you guys. I mean, the one thing that I will say is that they really, and this has been an issue for the last 2 years, and Sonny and I talked about this yesterday, but just the ability to, the onboarding, they're so focused on getting guys into the league that it messes people up. Like, we need to be able to invite people to the league first and then start the league. Right now you create a league, and as soon as you create it, the computer's making all kinds of changes to it. So, also, big shout out to the 101 people checking out the show via Twitch or via YouTube Gaming. Big shout out to my man Rex Football. Rex EA Football is in the house. See a lot of guys that I know. I saw Problem Right on here earlier. So big shout out to everybody tuning in. I know usually I'm interacting more with the comments, but right now it's all about these guys. All right, so we're moving into our final set of questions, and these are ones, guys, that I didn't give you guys. So I did this on purpose because I didn't want you guys to sort of, okay, let me get my thoughts together on this. No, I want you to just think about these. So I'm going to name some features in CFM, and I want you to give me one thing that you would add to these features. Now, I'm not going to ask everybody the same features. You know what? I am going to ask everybody the same features. Because there's enough features. Because one of the things that really bothers me is when EA comes out with new features for CFM, and then they just sit there. Like, they could do so much more with these features, but instead they just leave them alone and then add more features. So I feel like there's some features that really need to be polished. So I'm going to start with my man Sonny, and I'm going to ask you, game prep, game planning, game prep, what's the one thing you would like to see added to what's there already?
Alright, so I'm gonna kind of say that it includes the whole game prep, game planning, practice thing.
Yeah.
I want injuries. I want injuries in practice.
Ooh.
I think part of practice is getting hurt.
Ooh.
I think there should be a modifier there. I think you should have 3 types of practices. It should be either a walkthrough, a full contact practice, or a normal practice. Full contact, you get extra XP with an extra chance of getting hurt, including linemen. You do an average practice, average amount of XP, average chance of getting hurt, and a walkthrough, no chance of getting hurt, but lower XP.
Wow. Okay, that was pretty good. You get extra points for all of that. We're gonna go to Mike. Mike, what?
I want to expand upon stats that we see right now. I mean,
yes.
Right now in this data metrics, teams have so much information on their opponent. I want more of that in the game. I want to know, what their favorite plays are in different situations. I want to know how much they run out of shotgun, how much they run under center, how much they blitz. I want to know all so when I'm sitting there waiting for us to advance, I can work through the numbers and put together a game plan on the guy I'm about to play, and not necessarily have to go back through and watch all of his Twitch streams and find him. Just give me all the information. It's all there to be collected. Put it in the game and let me filter through it.
Right. All right, Lewis.
For me, it goes back to having an actual practice mode. For me, it would be hard to sell the guys in the league on injuries during practice because they already cried during games already. So to sell that, it might be a little bit difficult, because they like I always go back to, I guess, Madden 25. That was the perfect practice mode to where you were able to, if you wanted to bring in a free agent, you would bring in a free agent, test him out. If he didn't meet your standards, you cut him and you kept it going. So I believe them bringing that back would help out the mode greatly. Now I can't go with the injuries, but I think that would be interesting for me anyway. So
cool. Sim.
Man, Shop, you should even know this answer, man. I've been saying this for years. I want a ghost profile.
Yes.
Like VIP from 2K days.
Yeah.
That gives you everything you want. I want to be able to scrimmage that team and have a practice squad that can replicate what they're doing. We need that. I mean, that's game prep right there. I mean, outside of what these guys said, I think we need all that inclusive. But give me a ghost profile, man, so if I can scrimmage against what I think this guy's gonna do. Like Mike said, the data's there.
Right.
Let's do that.
All right, very good points. I think the one thing for me is, I agree with Mike. I should have more stats. I actually should have video on my opponent. Inside that mechanism, inside that activity, I want the ability to see video. I think the other thing, and I agree with Sim too, I love that about the VIP. If there was somebody that I used to play my friend, and I used to download his VIP Ghost all the time. And I noticed, okay, he's shooting from the same spot every time. And just that's how you playing. But the one thing I really want to see is situational football in the practice mode, in the free practice. The ability to set up 2-minute drills. The ability to say, okay, there's this much time on the clock. I need to drive all the way down the field in my hurry up offense. Or, I just think there should be something with that, with the ability to set up time, even points if you want. So all right, that's mine. All right, the next thing we have is scouting. What's the one thing you would add to scouting sim football?
Depth.
Just
I
depth.
need to be able to, even visit these guys, man. Pro days, combines. We all just watched the NFL draft, right?
Yeah.
And our respective teams, you heard about why they took a guy. They had dinner with him after his pro day. Like the Steelers, they like to do pre-draft visits. We need all of that type of stuff to be able to kind of gain more knowledge on these guys. And if we do that, let's say I do that more so than you, then I get a little more information on him. I might be able to dig into possible injury history from high school or college or behavior, family stuff.
Yeah.
Just depth. One word.
All right.
More depth in that area.
All right, Sonny. I already know what Sonny gonna say.
Well, I got a little bit of everything, but he already got depth. So that's a pretty good answer because I agree with depth. But I want scouting reports. I want those scouting reports to reflect the level and the quality of the scout. I don't want one scout. I want a pool of scouts that we have. And those scouts should be good at various things, and that should help develop the report. So when I get that report, based on how good my scouts are and how good I am at reading that report, that should dictate how good that guy's going to be. And if my scout says that he's a poor route runner, but my scout's no good, he could be a great route runner, and I lose on that.
Yep.
Because I think what that's going to do is that's going to separate guys when it comes to drafting. Your ability to read a scouting report, your ability to bring in a scouting report is going to really offset you and really let you kind of find the gems of the draft that right now the really basic scouting we get doesn't do.
All right, Lewis.
Scheme.
for your team, but you're drafting a player that does not fit your scheme,
yes,
then that player should grade out lower in your scheme as opposed to right now everybody gets the same grade for all the players across the board. No matter what scheme you're in, no matter what scout you have, it's all the same. So everybody's always rushing to get the same players. But if you're rushing to get those players that don't fit your scheme and you're uncovering their grades, they should grade out lower. So it's turning you off from wanting to draft that particular player because he doesn't fit your scheme. I think that would make scouting so much better in the game and make guys, actually go to the section of the game where your scheme is set up and actually start using that stuff.
Yes. Yes.
I think some guys don't know that exists. So that would help the game out a lot.
All right, Mike.
I like everything everybody said. They're all good, and we should get them all if we can. My big thing is I want a fog of war. I don't want to see exact ratings. I don't want to know exactly what every guy is perfect at because that's just not realistic.
Right.
You can have an idea. You can think a guy is, whatever. I would say more of a letter grade, like an A plus, something like that. But you don't know specifically, and so I would like to go transition that realm in some ways so that we don't know specifically what we're getting. We got to try them out. We got to put them on the practice field. We got to put them in games. We got to figure out what they are. And that way, I think it becomes way more immersive. And what you're doing plays a bigger role because you have to kind of figure out what you got along the way.
Good points. Good points. I gotta give Dynasty Lewis big shout outs for what he said because I do think it's scheme. Like I feel like, and it's not only in scouting. I feel like if they redo scheme, I did a whole presentation, a whole slideshow about how schemes should matter, getting the chemistries that they kind of use for Mutt and build that in because I'm with you, Lewis. If you get a guy with the right scheme, I feel like he should progress faster in your scheme. If you get a guy that doesn't fit your scheme, then I think he shouldn't progress as fast. So it's as simple as that, and then you won't have guys fighting over the same guys in the draft because a guy will be okay. You know what? He's this certain scheme. Maybe I don't get him. Maybe I get this other guy because he fits my scheme perfectly. Now I agree. There are going to be some guys who it doesn't matter what scheme you're in. Like the Tom Brady, put Tom Brady in any scheme, it doesn't matter. So I think there are guys like that, but I think if they do schemes right, it can make a big difference in scouting, a big difference in development, a big difference in everything else, drafting as well. So that
Hey, Shop,
yeah.
real quick, I just want to add 2 seconds to that. The funny thing about it is even when you're in the draft, scouting and all of that, the player types, those things are there as if it matters. Like playmaker and
Right.
prototype. But it doesn't matter.
Right.
So it's like the idea is right there, but it doesn't function in the game.
It doesn't function in the game. Exactly. You can have, and the crazy, well, we'll talk about that coming up, but the draft. Let's talk about the draft.
God.
Give me one thing you would change about the draft, Lewis.
One thing I would change about the draft. Wow. Right off the top, its current state. Wow. You might want to come back to me on that one. I might
All right. Now we'll come back to you. Go ahead, Sonny.
Right off the top, let's go with draft remotely. Got to be able to draft from a computer or an app. If you want to make the draft better, you got to have 32 guys there. And right now, you can't get 32 guys there because everybody doesn't have their Xbox. And that's a tough thing to do. If you want to call it connected franchise mode, let us connect. Let us draft remotely.
Nice. Sim?
Gotta go with that draft board, man. I think that ties into what Sonny said also. If I'm not there, let me have an actual organized draft board based on need, position, scheme, etc. That the CPU, if I can't be there remotely, That's all I ask.
All right, Mike.
Well, mine would kind of go along with the scouting. I want to see more late round guys that develop into being stars, and more. I mean, we all know like first rounders typically are about 50% bust, but in Madden, you know exactly what you're getting, at least in the first 3 rounds, really through the whole draft. So I want more unpredictability in our scouting and what we're seeing from these guys. And so I guess you probably need a different rating. Like maybe you got to interview some guys or something, and see this guy doesn't have a good work ethic, or this guy's kind of a head case, so maybe he's not going to work out. But I just want more unpredictability. I want more guys getting busted and more sleepers late in their draft.
Okay. All right. Lewis, you got anything, or?
I pretty much agree with everything that's been said so far.
Yeah. All right. So the one thing that I would say is I want to see the actual function of trading up better. Like in fact I can't even remember this year. I don't even think you can trade during the draft. But just being able to make moves doesn't seem existent during the draft process. And I want them to make a better effort as to try to make that more functional. Meaning that let's say I want to offer somebody else above me something for their pick. I want them to be notified, this dude got an offer. And I don't know if you can add more time. I know the draft is long enough. Going 7 rounds, the draft is long enough. But the ability to do that, or maybe just the ability to, break the draft up into 3 legit days. That might be something that people would like to see. I know some people especially the NBL who do live drafts and commentate and have scouting reports, and they do a phenomenal job with their draft stuff. And it would be cool to see actually 3 days, an hour for 3 days, just them breaking down each round and giving the guys a little bit more time to pick their players, a little bit more time for trades to go through and trades to be proposed. That's just something that I would like to see. All right. Our last topic before we talk about the 3 things that you guys talked about on your wish list is free agency. Sonny, what can EA do about free agency? Because I feel like nobody liked it the way it was, and nobody likes it now.
So, free agency, kind of coming back to a lot of what we've talked about, I think scheme's going to play into that.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is the overarching theme that all of us can agree on, that scheme needs to matter. And so free agency right now is see the highest-rated guy bid on the highest-rated guy. I don't think that necessarily is true, especially when you get to those mid-level guys. That's where you see scheme fits really start to make a big difference. As far as what I think needs to happen in free agency, I think kind of a hybrid of what they did now versus what they used to do. I don't think we want to see every point. If I know I've got a bid of 101 and he's got a bid of 100, he just needs to go to 102 to take this guy from me.
Right.
We don't need to see that.
Yeah.
We need to be like, end of the year, when you make a bid on a guy, you get 1 shot to make that bid. And then you've got to basically live with that. I think free agency every week, you should get your shot, you make him a competitive offer, and then it's done. He'll give you feedback and say, you're not the highest offer, or hey, that's not where I want to be. But in the end, we shouldn't see numbers. It's too easy to manipulate, especially in a 32-man league. You've got guys just trying to undercut guys. We got to hide that.
Right. Exactly. Mike?
I agree with the get rid of the point system. I don't like it. I mean, if you look at the free agency this year, you didn't know who was going where. You got 3 or 4 teams going after a guy, but they're not necessarily always going to go to the guy that offers them the most quote-unquote points or money. Sometimes it's about scheme, sometimes it's about location, sometimes it's about coaches. Mm-hmm. So I think we need to have more personality within the players and allow them to make their decisions based on those things in the game. I mean, somebody might not want to go play for the Jaguars or the Rams or the Browns or something like that. Or what we saw this year, Minnesota to some degrees, because it's cold up there. So
Okay, Lewis?
Yes, I totally agree. The point system has to go. I know that was a big issue in our league where we had set advance times and guys would come on a minute before the advance and jack it up 1 point higher than the guy that was bidding right before the advance. So to alleviate that, we came up with the random advance window. We had a 15-minute window. Sometime within that 15-minute window, we would advance. So we took away that last-minute bidder coming in trying to jack up the price.
Yeah.
I told him, if you like a player, put your money on the table and pay him what you think he should be paid, and good luck on the advance. So, yeah, the point system has to go.
All right. Sim?
Yeah, guys, let me just let y'all know. I mean, I told y'all earlier, dealing with some technical difficulties. The phone is down to 10%, so after I speak here, I'm going to try to switch over to the computer. We'll see what happens.
All right.
But, yeah, I'm going to go along with what Mike said, man. That's one of my biggest things. I mean, it's a number of things, but I just want to be able to pitch guys and entice them. Like, free agency is too easy. You know, it's let me woo a guy in and tell him why he wants to play with this guy, or who's a championship contender, or you know, it's warm here or whatever. You know, we're almost there.
Right, we one piece away.
Yeah. You know, it's too easy. You know, the points have to go. I think we all agree on that.
Yeah. All right. So I think the consensus is, you know, point system has to go. There needs to be a better way to, you know, do free agency and stuff like that. Now, the next thing I want to talk about, and I know since Sim got off, it kind of messed up everybody's place on the screen, but we're going to keep going until he gets back on. I want to talk about, you know, somebody in the chat said, talked about fair play. Now, it's funny because I think a lot of people equate CFM guys with, you know, sim guys. So what is your stance on fair play? I would love for them to bring fair play back to Madden, even if it's just a setting that guys can use. So we'll start with Lewis. Lewis, what do you think about fair play? Would you guys in your league use it? You there? You there, Lewis? All right. Seems like we lost Lewis. What about you, Mike?
I don't. That's a touchy subject, I think, because now you're trying to dictate to people how they play, and I used to be all in favor of it because, you know, I'm a quote-unquote sim guy, and I like to play more close to the vest, but I don't know if you can dictate that everybody needs to play that way.
Right.
I mean, I'm assuming we're talking about playing online, or maybe even having settings in the league, and if that's so, then, you know, I'm cool with that. But if we're talking about online, like a fair play type thing, I just want to see lobbies come back. You know, if you want to find a guy that plays, you know, sim ball, then maybe have sim settings and have a sim lobby, you go in there, and you can maybe have some of that stuff in there. But I don't know if dictating it to everybody that plays the game as a whole is necessarily a good idea.
All right, what do you think? Real quick, what do you think about if EA allowed you to have fourth down rules?
Me?
Yes, Mike. Yeah.
I mean, if we had it for it's tough because everything's different. If I'm going for a fourth down on my side of the field at my own 20-yard line, that's different than me going for a fourth down at the 35 with a kicker that's got 87 leg power.
Right.
Kick power. So it's a tricky slope to navigate if you want to force guys into certain situations. There's so many variables that you have to program that I don't know if it would really play. And I don't know. That one, fourth down, I don't know. I think that's one thing that we could probably manage as a league by just putting in rules versus the game kind of forcing it.
Right. What about you, Sonny?
I think sim in general has become the most cliche term in all of Madden.
Yes.
I think it's a relative term to, you know, what you think is sim and what I think is sim may not be the same thing. And so, you know, your fourth down rule and my fourth down rule aren't the same rules. So I don't know if fair play really works because everybody's got a different level of what they consider to be fair. You know, some guy's going to pull up and say, well, I saw Sean Payton do an onside kick to start the second half of the Super Bowl. I think that's fair in my league. Others may say, no, I don't think
Yeah, you definitely don't. Sim?
Yeah, man, and I hope everything is back to normal here.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Hates my back. Okay, you know what? I got to bite off of Sonny, man. I think that was perfect. I would have said it the same way. Even as a CFM guy, everyone's definition is different. Because I'll give you a perfect example. How many teams in the NFL do you see run the same running play 3, 4, 5 times in a row?
Yeah.
I mean, so that's a tough one. I think fair play will help for you to be in. I'm gonna ball from say for every fish to find your fish bowl and swim in it. I think it gives you that, but it's just putting that label, what's sim, what's not sim. I think that is a tough call.
Okay. All right. Lewis, are you back? All right. I think we lost Lewis. All right. So another sort of like a debate. I don't think it's that big of a debate, but what do you guys think about progression? With you got the dev trades, you got, there used to be a time where you didn't know how a guy would progress. It was sort of like random. Which way do you like it, and what modifications would you make to that? And we'll start with Mike.
I don't know. I come and go on this one because I kind of like the XP system and how it has now because it gives you control over who you want to improve. But then I look back at like the Maddens in the mid 2000s where progression was done by the game and it was based on, I don't know really what it was based on. We assumed it was based on playing time and maybe there was a hidden development trait or something that you didn't see.
Right.
I think I would like to see more ratings, like a work ethic rating, maybe an IQ rating, and stuff like that. But those things play into it. So then it takes into your playing time, your practice time. Like Sonny said earlier, how hard you're practicing would be cool. And then maybe their IQ and their work ethic, all of that stuff plays together. And then every week the game helps you guys progress or maybe even regress. Depending upon those things.
Okay, cool. Guys, those are in the chat. Yo, send me some questions to ask these guys. If there are some hot questions that you want to ask, let me know. We'll go with Sim. Sim, what do you think about the whole progression system?
Oh man, it's kind of twofold for me. I mean, the progression system, I want it to be more where guys are. I want performance to dictate progression more than just being able to add points. But then also, man, it's with the ratings as a whole too. I got to tie that into it because I want it to be more traits involved.
Mm-hmm.
So even if they are, the normal progression that we have now, we need way more traits to being able to separate guys, what they can do, what they can't do, with abilities and things like that.
Right.
But I'm just on the side of the fence, man, where I want progression to be more based on performance, whether that's in game or practice. I mean, we hear in the NFL all the time when you hear a coach say, "Hey, man, this guy had a great week in practice. He's coming along." The chemistry stuff that y'all mentioned a little earlier. That's where I want to see progression go, more so in that direction than what it is now.
Okay. Sonny?
So I think progression's, kind of a twofold issue, progression and regression. So we'll talk about progression. I think the big issue with progression, season goals and things like that aren't necessarily attainable because they're not reflective of your settings in your league. If your season goals were dictated by the settings in your league, meaning how long your quarters are, things like that, and you were actually able to obtain the higher level goals for good play, I think we would see better progression in guys because the elite guys would more likely hit those goals. But right now, a lot of those goals are unattainable. I think offensive line seriously struggle. I'm not sure the cost rating on those is technically worked out real well yet. As Sim said, I think there needs to be more traits to differentiate guys. I think if you could differentiate guys through traits, not necessarily through attributes, that would be big.
Yeah.
And then really the major issue is linear regression. You start regressing at 27, 28, depending on different positions, and it makes it impossible to progress, yet you regress linearly. Well, if you regress linearly, we would not have guys basically it keeps you from
Right.
progressing.
Yeah.
And I think to fix progression, you have to look at regression.
Good points. Good points. I still don't think we got Lewis on. Mike, did you talk about this?
You want me to go again?
Yeah. Nah. Don't go again. All right. Getting back to the 3 things that y'all wish EA would add to Madden 18, and then we'll wrap this thing up. Definitely appreciate everybody in the chat. Appreciate you guys taking out the time to talk about CFM in this way. We'll start with Mike on this one. The 3 things that you want EA to do. I want you to take one of those 3 and just elaborate and tell us why EA should invest in that particular feature or whatever the thing is that you want.
I forget which 3 I said now.
That's all right. You can just make one up.
I'm gonna go with one that I thought of that is actually CFM kind of specific, and it's the man, I can't even think of what it's called now. The substitution thing. Formation subs.
Formation subs.
That,
Okay.
You know, it got added in late this year, but it was backwards, and it didn't really work because you didn't really know where your guys were going, and was kind of confused. I don't know if they ever updated it. I gave up on it, but I want to see more done with that. I want more flexibility over creating sub packages and stuff like that. Like, you can go into NBA 2K and you can create all these different lineups for, 3-point situations, free throw shooters, late game, all these different options. And, I want more flexibility. I know we can do it in the game in the play call screen, but sometimes, you're running down the clock, you're trying to flip somebody in, and that takes away from you actually being able to call your plays. So if I have more customization with formation stubs and putting guys in different spots, I think that will give people more control over what they're doing and enhance the game.
Okay. All right. Good. All good points. Sim?
Yeah, man, I thought I was the only one, but Mike said it. I almost forgot all of the ones that I said, but I'll grab the one that I definitely remember, and I think it'll be easy for me to elaborate in a short amount of time. It's got to be the progression. The progressive fatigue and injuries. If you just look at, you hear me say this all the time. No shame in saying this. NBA 2K's My League is probably my favorite franchise mode right now. I haven't really dived into MLBs, but also head coach 09 had the same thing where players throughout the season got injured or they got tired, or you can throw morale into that. And I just want explains it all.
Okay, there you go.
I want wear and tear to dictate what's going on with my team, because it's about me building my team. So that allows you to test how good your roster is. Or if a guy is tired, let's take James Harrison for example. Y'all know I understand, and I'm a Steelers fan, so I'm always using those references.
Right.
This guy's 39 years old, even though he's a beast. He's 39. So I need to see week 12, but he's like wearing down a little bit. And I just think that would make the competition within your league so much better, the draft so much better, the scouting so much better, because you have to really manage that roster. And you compare that with one of you guys said with the practice where there's a potential risk of injury because this guy's been, he's on the engine. Don't push him too hard this week. Maybe you have to put him through the walkthrough. So those type of things, man, would take the game to another level as far as a competitive nature with 32 guys.
Right. All right, Sonny?
I think I'm going to look at kind of that whole offseason being that, once you hit the draft, you draft, and then we jump from draft straight into preseason. And in the NFL, there's a lot of football being done in between those two points. I think a rookie minicamp, OTAs, those things right there would be a good first chance to get a hold of these guys. I think rookies you need to feel those guys early on and really know what you have in some of those guys, especially the undrafted free agents and such. OTAs. I think one of the things that are really underrated, and Sim talked about it, I mentioned it earlier, injuries in practice and in camps are really the most common injuries, and they change seasons, and they alter the whole way franchises. Teddy Bridgewater, it changed the whole outlook for the Vikings franchise. They had to go trade for a quarterback.
Yeah.
So I think you've got to cover the areas between draft and preseason, and I think there's a lot they can do there that's really exciting.
All right. For me, it comes down to, we talked about it, it comes down to schemes. I just think because schemes will affect so many things in Madden, CFM, I just think that's the one area where I really need them to do something about. I think, John White, I love the guy. I hope he gets all the help that he can get, because I do think it's really not up to the devs. It's up to the guys above the devs who say, hey, we need resources here, and we can only give you this amount of people, and you need to have this list. Sonny and I talked about something yesterday about as far as like features lists, and Sonny mentioned it earlier. When you talk about, do you want to put this one feature in, or do you want to put these 5 features in? And that one feature could be a feature that the community really wants and has been asking for the last 2 years. But if we do that, then we're not going to be able to put these 5 features in. And I think that's something that the community really doesn't understand, and you really don't know the kind of position that these devs are in until you talk to them. And so I have a lot of respect for these devs, because they bear the brunt of all of this, and they deserve credit where credit is due. I think at the beginning of the year, I was actually happy with what they had put into CFM, and I think most guys are. Like Mike said, I think more people are playing CFM, and I think it's just a matter of, we just need to. I actually think for us as a community, we just need to prioritize what we'd like to see, and I think that's the hard thing as a community, is to figure out what as a community are our top 3 things. The reason why I asked you guys what your top 3 things were is because I knew everybody would have different top 3. Nobody's going to have the same top 3. No community, no league is going to have the same top 3 as another league. And I think that's where, talking to John White and the devs, that's where their kind of dilemma is. They don't know what the community's top 3 is, or top 5, or top 10. So I'm going to let everybody sort of say a final word before we get out of here, and we'll start with Sim.
Yeah, man, I think what Shop just said is very key. I mean, obviously, Shop and I know that very well. I know some other guys here. I know definitely, I believe Sonny, and I know Mike has had opportunities to speak to the devs, but it is that. I mean, even sometimes when we're there, we hit with, okay, what are the top 5? And we got to even condense that together. So I think it just, things like what happened tonight need to happen more often, especially in the CFM community, because I still feel like there are other communities that have a loud voice because it's more of them, or they come together more. You got to definitely do that, and we have to stop fighting against other communities. I mean, we need to find a way to bridge the gap, so to speak. I believe everybody is looking for football and looking for the things that they want in their respective communities. So, got to start there first. But last thing I'll say is, with CFM, we got to support CFM. We got to make sure that not only the devs, because it's not them, those guys who are deciding where allocation of time goes and how much budget is being expended on this and that, they need to know how important CFM is. So we just have to continue to be out in the front, man, and pushing the agenda.
Right. Good stuff. All right, Mike.
I think what you guys are saying is true. Like, guys have to games tonight. That's great, and we need more stuff like that. Like, we don't need to have this us against them mentality, because that's not going to get us anywhere. And honestly, it's hurting us because they're bigger than we are. I mean, they make more money than we do. You know, if somebody's going to give you $100 to do something, if somebody's going to give you $20 to do something, which guy are you going to go to? You know, and right now, Mud is that. So, you know, we got to find ways to work together and, you know, and get everybody kind of getting what they want, but also everybody kind of realize when it's never going to be everything that we want. And I think we all go forward in that way.
All right, and I know Lewis is still offline, but I want to send a thank you to Lewis who chimed in. Sonny, you got the last word.
I think, like Sim and Mike said, we gotta be a united front, but at the same time, we don't need to be attacking Mud. I think we get nowhere by doing that. I think it's a bad look for us as a whole. I think promoting the mode as a whole, CFM movement, Franchise Nation on Twitter are both great things that just lets people see the kind of content you can get from there. We talk about streamers and what they put out there. People pulling packs, I get it. There's a gambling high there, but watching, you know, live game streams, watching breakdowns of film of CFM games, watching, you know, the different content that's put out there, I think that's a really cool thing that a lot of people just aren't exposed to yet. So retweet that stuff from other leagues, help people out, and get some more exposure there. And then the final thing I want to say is be nice to your friendly developer. The developers are not out to get you. Don't attack them. Don't call them names. And for the love of God, don't threaten them. It makes no sense. You wouldn't do that to people in your real life. You hide behind names on Twitter. Don't do it. Not cool.
Not cool.
Hey, Shop.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me add something real quick. And Sonny, I'm glad you said it, because I want to say this just to show you guys that we are a community that sticks together. If you guys are not watching NBL, I mean, those recaps with the screens and stuff is phenomenal. Make sure y'all go watch that stuff. I mean, I've done stuff with like virtual sets and all, but this is another level. Make sure you tune in and watch these guys, man. And like he said, give CFM more exposure. And this goes for EA as well. Because I know there was a question asked, you know, about Rex a few weeks ago. You know, push some of the CFM guys out in the front as well and just get that exposure. But if you don't do anything else, if you want to see a nice visual display as well as listen to good commentary, and I know PX1, you know, did that as well. NBL, I'm telling you, you're gonna feel like you're looking at SportsCenter or NFL Network, whatever you want to call it. Make sure y'all check that out, man.
Yeah, let me ask you guys something real quick. When it comes to, you know, I think NBL does a great job of, you know, making the user feel immersed into CFM, PX1 Sports, the Dynasty. They all do, you know, similar things. But I want to ask you, Sonny, you know, for a small league, what are some, like, just small things that they could do to because the one thing I know about NBL is that everybody contributes almost. Like almost everybody contributes. It's not a one-man show. It's not a, you know, just this guy and the commissioner make all this stuff. Like, there's guys making magazine covers, top 10s, highlights. So what do you guys do? And those guys, like, contribute money all the time to, you know, that stuff. So what is your secret that you could pass on to, like, some of these smaller leagues who want that, who want to keep, you know, their league going all the way to the next version of Madden?
You know, it's cool. You talk about the small leagues. You know, we once were a small league. 3.5 years ago, we got started, and you know, we had the same struggles everybody has. High turnover.
Yeah.
That happens. You know, having to deal with CPU games because you don't have enough guys to fill out a league. But what you have to do is you have to believe in what you're doing. You have to get guys that have that common belief, and don't be scared to kick guys out that don't share that belief. I think the reason we get that content is because we kind of roll that content into kind of a requirement to be in the league. If you want to be in the league, we're past the idea of just having warm bodies. We want to have guys that want to actually help advance the league, and so we roll, you know, your contributions to the league into, like, You never expect to have Browns fans, but you got Browns fans out there that really want the Browns. And, I think that all rolls in there. And, as far as the money thing, it's like any hobby. I think people donate the money. And one thing is we don't solicit the money. The money just comes, and we use that for the green screens. Sim talked about the studio stuff. I actually run NBL Tonight, which is the studio show you referenced. And the league paid for the cameras and everything that we need to do that. And that's because those guys actually appreciate that content. If you don't have guys that appreciate the content, then you're not going to produce the content. Guys appreciating the work you do is really how you advance. And I think that's what we've got going over at NBL. And anybody who has questions on getting started with that, I suggest you follow us on Twitter. Shoot us a DM. We'll help you guys out. We're all about it.
All right, Mike, I'm going to throw it to you. Same thing. Can you give some of these smaller leagues any advice on, how I'm not telling you to tell them how to run their league, but just some encouragement. Because I know how hard it is for commissioners out there.
Well, it's like Sonny said. Content is big. You got to get guys that want to contribute, but I think a lot of it goes to leadership. And you got to have, and Bomber with NBL has done an amazing job with that. He's been so hardcore about pushing what they're trying to do, and he gets everybody to build into it. And I think that's what you got to be as a leader. You have to decide, okay, what kind of league are we going to be? What kind of rules are we going to have? What do we want to do? Do we want to do big shows? Do we want to have a magazine? Do we want to have everybody have Twitter personalities? What do we want to do? And then you got to stick to it. You got to require that guys do it. You got to have, we're actually switching to something like NBL is doing as far as the rating for the draft, because that's going to help. It helps guys be more engaged if they know, okay, the more I put into this league, the more it's going to benefit me, and then they're willing to do more stuff. So you got to kind of think outside the box. You can't just have a league that just shows up and advances at a certain time. You can't have a commissioner that's not consistent, and is not advancing on time, it's not enforcing the rules. You gotta find a league with a good leader, and then you guys gotta figure out what your lane is, what you want to do, and then just consistently keep moving towards that. Cool.
Well, guys, again, I appreciate each one of you guys coming on, taking the time out to talk about CFM, talk about your leagues, talk about your ideas and opinions. I just knew there was going to be so many more technical difficulties than Sim's phone running out of battery. So I appreciate everything, guys, and maybe we'll definitely do this again in the future.
Absolutely, this was great, man. It was awesome.
Definitely. We'll get Mike's camera fixed so he doesn't have the same look on his face the whole time. So, all right, guys. This is going to do it for us, guys. I appreciate y'all joining in. Make sure you hashtag CFM Movement, hashtag Franchise Nation on all your videos, on all your everything that has to do with franchise. Just go ahead and, because you wouldn't believe how big that is. Because I've heard some from an EA person saying, yo, we do metrics, and this CFM movement thing really, they use that to spearhead, what the community is talking about. So definitely use the hashtags. Follow me on Twitter at Shopmaster. If you have any questions about CFM or anything, follow these guys. Sim Football Critic, I think that's his Twitter name. Sonny, what's your Twitter name?
At T4Verts and at Madden Bomber League, I think, or at Bomber League.
Yeah, at Bomber League. Yeah, and Mike, what's yours?
At EX1 Sports.
All right, guys. So there you go, guys. Again, appreciate it, and we'll check you guys out. Make sure you tune in next Tuesday for another Game Changers Live, and I will check you guys out later. Peace. Thanks, guys.